Where do you see, Gemma, social going and advertising going from brands? There's obviously a retail apocalypse that's happening, which is very real and only getting worse.
Yeah.
Consumers are shutting off even though they're seeking brands as friends.
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to figure it out. So what's your take?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've seen quite a lot of kind of cyclical trends.
Yeah.
So, when social first kind of became let's call it a professional, a channel that you could use in a professional capacity, not just to connect with folks, but actually for brands to engage on. There was a lot of sort of authentic connection, I felt like, and the importance of good storytelling and creating groups and actually creating experiences that people cared about and talked about. And then it went to that world of shove everything online, stick it on social, people will talk about it, and people kind of forgot, which goes back to the principles of
why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, why doing it? What influences humans? Why we talk? We talk because something sort of drives emotion. We talk because we want to be helpful with each other, to each other. We talk because we want to sort of stay connected and in the know. Going back to some of those principles. So that's where I see sort of social. I also think, we've talked about it for a few years, but will the term social media go away? Because what does that even mean anymore? It's, it's the web is a hyper-connected place with humans connecting with others, and I don't know if the term social media now is kind of
stands true anymore. In fact, one of my social media students, asked me a couple of weeks ago, is are influencers paid media or earned media? And because the line is, in an erstwhile world, there would be earned media, not paid media. And I'm like, well, that's the definition.
Right.
But today it's kind
paid
of... Exactly.
But then with the influencers, again, that's another one where it's kind of influencers, the original influencers have become like movie stars and then you kind of see people going further down the pyramid as I look at it, to look for the nano influencers.
Micro influencers.
Or nano, that was the one below.
Oh, nano? So nano is what, like 20 people?
Nano is, I don't know the exact number.
My family?
My mum. But the hunt for the authentic has got so extreme, really, that it's almost like we're kind of out humaning ourselves. And if you just boil it back down to, okay, let's look at the people we're trying to reach. But I do think these groups that I've been talking about, I do feel like this tribal moment means that we are ever retreating into groups. I don't think social media isn't going anywhere, but I think it's becoming more specialist. So, it's TikTok for music, it's Twitch for gaming, it's Reddit for everything. Facebook, I do believe, is the groups of the future of Facebook. I mean, again, Zuckerberg said it himself. Instagram's still the place where I hope it can stay like this for as long as possible, but it's still that kind of beautiful aesthetic in the main feed. And yes, there's the addictive nature of scrolling through it, but I think it's more about creating something lovely. I still think Twitter's a great source for news, but I just, as a human person...
I think they're not mocked, and I think they have been on their laurels. And I actually, a couple of years ago, asked my students to do a paper on the death of Twitter. But thanks to a couple of high-profile people, it seems to be still alive because they're using it on a regular basis.
And, it's become...
Including presidents.
So... It's... I would personally look at it once a day and just
but your news is coming from everywhere, right, Gemma? So I wrote about how actually I believe Facebook is one. I remember I found out Prince died on Facebook. I found out Robin Williams died on Facebook. I also found out the births of few people, but mostly the deaths and news. So Twitter used to be news source, and now you get news everywhere because you get trending news. Google has started doing trending news based on your search.
Quite a good job of it.
They do a great job of it because they understand you. They understand your digital footprint, right? So then what is the role of Twitter in the whole social, Second change that is happening, and I call it the holy grail, is that social media channels are going to start becoming complete ecosystems like Amazon. So, they're going to almost become like e-commerce.
Yeah.
I've started looking at Facebook as a search engine. A lot of people are searching on Facebook, right? Yeah. Using the search bar. Similarly, now, soon, when you're going to be able to buy in the ecosystem itself, in Instagram,
well, now
and
the new Instagram sort of commerce offering.
Right.
And then Pinterest is one that, I see it less of a social platform, and it's more of a kind of aspirational,
aspirational.
But if you,
online store kind of thing.
It's if you look to, because I think what's going to be interesting is because the internet grew up differently in North America. It's like that, we went desktop to mobile, but if you look in Asia, straight to mobile. So if you look at WeChat, that's where Facebook's been following WeChat's playbook for years, and within
people are using WeChat professionally to do presentations.
WeChat is the internet, so it's like all the apps you use in one thing. So, Facebook's growth is happening outside of the US. How it's growing, it's trying to be that kind of all-encompassing every area of your life.
It's trying to do things with WhatsApp, right? Because it's their answer to WeChat.
Right.
Okay.
And then kind of building within their walls versus externally. So what happens here? It's really interesting to see how the different sorts of territories.
Do you think brands are understanding that and actually doing local campaigns global, meaning global in thought and local in implementation?
They have to be, yeah.
Do they get it? Like, are they getting
it? They do, and again, I think you can't sort of sit in one territory and assume
that is the same everywhere.
You have to have a sort of a local team to interpret, just from a kind of language and content perspective for a start, but also, if you think about the way that a platform's used in China versus a platform's used in India to the US, it's very, very different.
Yeah.
And even, in Europe where from country to country, you'll see like Germany's always been very focused on privacy. Yeah. And so I've always found it really interesting how we might be like, oh yeah, we know. I would say again in Asia, you see how this whole live streaming phenomenon really caught on there, and you'll see people will tune into a live stream to watch somebody eat, and then pay with kind of digital credits and just kind of watch them eating. And it's like, but that's kind of influencers are selling products by doing these live streams, and that's actually something that TikTok, which used to be Musical.ly, that's kind of the first, I think, more broader stream incarnation of that, because you can. And then on Twitch there's all of the kind of the gaming element of watching live streams there. So we're borrowing from Asia. We think we're the most advanced, but we're not.
No, we're actually the last place where the sun comes, right?
Right.
Maybe, perhaps, rightly so.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for clients who are trying to navigate this, and what advice do you have for agencies who? It takes a lot of guts to put Fearless Girl out there. It's not every day, and then of course once you have that. Every client expects that, right? So it's a catch-22, right?
Right.
So, what advice do you have for clients who are trying to navigate and trying to connect with brands, to consumers?
Yeah. And I would say what you think you know about consumers, challenge.
Yeah.
Start again. Just scrap the segmentation that you've been using for the past few years. And truly get to know the people you're trying to target, and don't assume you're going to reach everybody.
And how do you do that? Like, what's the best way to do it?
So,
earlier you had market research companies who by themselves are also struggling to understand what they are doing.
the focus groups always annoyed me because, that's slightly later in the creative process, but I just think there's a lot of skewed research you can do to prove a point versus actually going out there and, truly doing in-depth study of consumer behaviors, like spend time with a target, like literally spend 24 hours with some of the people that you're trying to reach and understand the moments in your day. I
think IKEA does that.
And it's like you actually need to spend time in the home of the consumer base to truly understand, again, depending on the brand, obviously, but if you're a toothpaste brand, you need to understand that, and I'm thinking kind of more globally as well too, but people's sort of different routines are very different, say in India than they are in
even flavors or something else, so
completely.
What about agencies?
I mean, in the same way that the world's changing around us daily, and it's not going to stop. and that's like change is difficult and weird, but I don't see there being this point in a year or so where it's like, all right, we're done now, because of this kind of Moore's law of technology spurring the advent and increasing connectivity everywhere. Like, it's just not going to stop.
Do you see like
changing.
companies like Google become the agencies of the future?
No.
Because obviously they believe they can.
Well, I mean, that's been the kind of discussion that we've had, again, another kind of round the houses of, and I think that you mentioned this earlier, there's a creative genius that you don't get anywhere else that you will get in an agency, and I think just like understanding that creativity...
I truly inherently believe that. True. I truly believe
there's a magic
only
there.
Creative and advertising that can make you buy something for $5 or go out of your way to get a Coca-Cola in Morocco versus a local drink. You know, it's
and it really is, and it's just to me the point is thinking about the model of the future and creating an infrastructure that's flexible enough to sort of evolve and grow. And you know, some agencies are well known for reinventing themselves every 7 years, and you know, I think.
But name an agency like that.
RGA has always done this cyclical, like, we're not evolving, and I just think that's smart, because if you look in,
it's held them in good stead. You think?
It's allowed them to evolve and change with the world around them, and I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years' time. None of us do, but we can. If you set yourself up to be able to. You can't assume that because it's worked for 20 years, it's going to continue working for the next 20.
And I think brands and clients and agencies need to understand that, right? Because it's easy to get into that space because it's a comfort space. Yeah.
And then you see, I mean, talking of brands, it's been interesting, all the direct-to-consumer brands that have launched, and realised that actually you can't just launch on the internet and assume that you're going to reach everyone. So they all now have...
Or sell.
Yeah, all have physical locations or are partnering with Target. We were talking about Casper earlier. Like, Casper's actually, Target is one of the investors, Casper's latest round of financing. Yeah. Target is one of their investors, and Casper started selling in Target. So like they understand that.
I saw that. I mean, imagine that you can actually pick up a mattress like this and not walk into Sleepy's. And
so you get to a point when you realise that the internet aren't be the only thing that you use to touch a consumer's life. So it works both ways, and it's okay. It's okay to sort of change and evolve and be like, that didn't work, so let's try this thing. And I think that nimbleness and sort of ability to be flexible. Now I'm saying this with broad strokes, but it does involve dismantling and rebuilding.
It's exhausting though, right? It's almost evolution every 6 months instead of every 25 years like it happened on Darwin's, islands, right? So it's I think it can be exhilarating and exhausting. Yeah. Obviously it looks like advertising continues to be not for the faint-hearted. Right?
No, I would agree.
And I think there's a lot that even the Unilevers and the Procter & Gambles of the world have to learn, right? It's very rare that you hear a client that's been with an agency for 60 years, 70 years, 50 years and is now up for review. But it looks like now I'm hearing about it almost every second day. Most agencies and clients are kind of looking at, like you said, more temporary relationships versus permanent. Social, it looks like, is going to continue to be an area of growth and observations and a place to build those authentic relationships that brands are trying to do, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to be, again, an interesting few years in terms of regulation and privacy and actually what that means in terms of what you can do there. But again, going back to kind of, if you're an authentic, true to yourself brand, then however you communicate should be okay.
Because you're being true to yourself, right? Be true to yourself, WPP. But no, it is. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah,
I can talk about this for hours. It looks like obviously so can you. Yeah. I want to personally thank you as a mother of a daughter for giving us Fearless Girl.
Well, there was lots of people involved.
Yes, but really, I want to thank the village that brought this girl to life and everything she stands for. I do believe her need today is more than yesterday. So in case you haven't figured out already, one of the key team members behind the Fearless Girl campaign. And not only does a team require, I think, to bring something to life, but they need to keep it alive till it actually comes to life. So,
very true.
Gemma, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time for this interview.
My pleasure.